Oh
Okay,
boy. Recording in progress.
it is. So I'm going to do some other stuff here. I'm going to do a share, I think. Let's see. Yeah, got to fix my little screen here because all I can see is Richard now. Where did everybody go? There we go.
Oh
Okay.
boy, your screen's probably broken. Yeah, it's broken now, huh? Oh boy.
I got us now. I got us. Okay. So I just wanted to look briefly at Revelation 1 that says the revelation of Jesus Christ. Trying to keep that in mind that even all we see is strange and interesting stuff going on. Uh, John starts out calling this a revelation of Jesus Christ and that God gave him to show his servants. That and we see specifically he's writing to seven churches, but since he's to show his servants, that's going to include us. Um, Shortly take place, it says quickly or swiftly. And probably we've talked about and heard about before, that shortly doesn't necessarily mean time wise soon, but once it starts, it'll go quickly. And this great part for us, blessed is he who reads and those who hear the words of this prophecy and keep those things which are written in it, for the time is near. There'll be some things we see and have seen already, especially in the letters to the churches, that we can keep. Okay. And we're going to see some things that we have absolutely no control over whatsoever. But I love this part that blessed is he who reads NIV, and I can see why they do this, says, blessed is he who reads out loud, because that's kind of what we do, because obviously not everybody can read, especially back in that time, and those who hear. And as we went through the first three chapters, we found out that the messenger to the church, or the angel of the church, uh, would be reading this message to the churches. So blessed are those who are doing the reading, and blessed are those who do the hearing. And even though we can do both, but when we read, we also need to hear. Be ye doers of the word and not hearers only. So I think that was it. Yeah. So we are at chapter 8, but does anybody need any kind of a recap or anything we should address before we can move on? If it's, I got my notebook out in case we need to write any questions down for follow up. So if those appear during our session today, let me know. So. George, welcome back from California. So with that, how about reading the first 5 verses of chapter 8?
Great. So when he opened the seventh seal, there was silence in heaven for about half an hour. And I saw the seven angels who stand before God, and to them were given seven trumpets. Then another angel, having a golden censer, came and stood at the altar. He was given much incense, that he should offer it with the prayers of all the saints upon the golden altar which was before the throne. And the smoke of the incense, with the prayers of the saints, ascended before God from the angel's hand. Then the angel took the censer, filled it with fire from the altar, and threw it to the earth. And there were noises, thunderings, lightnings, and an earthquake.
Oh,
Well, it
wait.
starts. Oh,
Yeah.
sorry, go ahead.
No, you go ahead. Read verse 6 too, because that'd be where a good
Oh,
break is.
okay. So the seven angels who had the seven trumpets prepared themselves to sound. So when he opened the seventh seal, there was silence in heaven for about half an hour, which I assume was kind of a preparation for what was going to follow. That there was this period of silence because what's going to happen is going to be very devastating. And he saw the seven angels who stand before God, and to them were given seven trumpets. Now, I believe they're probably the seven angels of the seven churches, and they have the seven trumpets. Then another angel, having a golden censer, stood before the altar. He had much incense that he should offer it with the prayers of all the saints upon the altar which was before the throne. So, from what I recall from some of the previous readings, that the incense was the prayers of all the saints that was in the censer, and that these are being offered directly before the throne of God. And that the smoke of the incense, along with the prayers of the saints, ascended before God from the angel's hand. So all the prayers of the saints are all coming directly to God through the incense from the hand of the angel. The angel then took the censer, filled it with fire from the altar, and threw it to the earth. And there were noises, thunderings, lightnings, and an earthquake. I believe that refers to, as this is being directed down to the earth and the things that were happening, all these things were noisy or dramatic events, and that these were things that were going to begin happening upon the earth. And the seven angels then took their trumpets and prepared themselves to sound to begin the following events that were to take place.
Yeah, it's some of this is kind of like what do you call it? It's not storytelling. It's just showing us an event. I don't think there's necessarily a lot of hidden meanings in there, but if you guys see any or think there's any in there, feel free to point those out. As you mentioned, George, in a previous passage, we saw about the prayers. The angels had censers with the prayers of the saints in them. And here, this one angel must have a really big censer, and presents it all up. So, in my mind, one of the key things here is that the prayers of the saints. So, it's just and it doesn't tell us. It's just the accumulated prayers of the saints over all the centuries. It's just the prayers of the saints at this particular time that's going on the earth. I don't know, but I doubt that God forgets our prayers. So this could be a culmination. How many times have believers in Christ, believers in God, even before Jesus showed up, cried out to the Lord for justice and things to be made right, and cried out because of pain and suffering and tribulations. So the Lord has told us in numerous places in Scripture He's going to answer those. And it looks like He's getting ready to answer those in the way He answers things, so especially in dealing with the earth. I also want to point out, too, that we mentioned a while back that the scroll, we've talked about the different things about the scroll. Is it a deed to the earth, which is a possibility? But I think we also mentioned that really the scroll has the details of the culmination of human history, how it's all going to end as far as human history is concerned in the earth before everything is like in Ephesians when God has joined everything on heaven and earth into one place, and we're not there yet. But we see that building up to that point.
There is a really kind of interesting note that I was just reading here while he's reading that says this silence is broken only by the heavenly offering and the prayers of all saints. It is, however, the eerie silence before the storm as the heaven awaits the coming judgment.
Yeah, that's good. Could just think about what we've just been reading coming up to this point about all the praising and the singing and the worship and the harps and all that going on in heaven, and all of a sudden it's just quiet. I think George probably hit the nail on the head there, because there's something really awesome and devastating starting to come, and it's at this point in time it's going to be a very somber thing. Later on we'll see where heaven breaks again into joy, but right now it's like, oh wow. And we see later if we get down, woe to the people on the earth, so. I thought it was interesting. I was reading, I think it was David Guzik was talking about these 7 angels. He didn't try to say who the 7 angels were. I know George mentioned he thought maybe they were 7 angels, the messengers to the churches, which I've also heard from, read some places. Some believe that, real possibility. Some people thought they might be the 7 spirits that's before God. Remember, angels are also considered ministering spirits. But I thought the interesting thing from David was that Jewish tradition, and this is way back, not Jewish Christian tradition, but Jewish tradition, I don't know how far back, says that there are 7 angels who always stand before God, which is pretty interesting. So that would be interesting if that Jewish tradition turned out to be true, that these 7 angels, what says there's 7, that in a sense would be some kind of confirmation for that Jewish tradition. So where they got it, we don't know. But okay, so we got this censer being hurled down to the earth. So
I think it's also important that the 7 that specifically that it is the number 7, the perfect number, the number of God that is being applied.
Yeah. Yeah, we noticed there's 7 seals, 7 trumpets. There's going to be 7 bowls. So there's a lot of 7s in here, which is, that perfect number. So. Jim, how about verse 7?
The first angel sounded, and the hail and fire followed, mingled with blood, and they were thrown to the earth, and 1/3 of the trees were burned up, and all the green grass was burned up. Geez, with all these fires going on around here, it's kind of makes you wonder.
Well,
Yeah, absolutely.
That's a good point. It's kind of a preview, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah. Wow.
So we had the silence, and then now the first trumpets happening, and the green grass could be dried up from just lack of water, and then once the fire started, it just all burns up.
Yeah. I think it's interesting. We see these thirds here all the way down here. And I think I was reading where somebody pointed out that even though at this point God's judgment and wrath are being poured out on the earth, at this particular stage, he's dealing in thirds. It's not the whole thing. At this point, it's not the whole earth that's burned up and all that. But we'll see things get worse and worse as we go on. But 1/3 is still pretty significant. Pretty significant. And the little bit of smoke we got around here, can you imagine the smoke that would be around if something like this was going on? So.
Oh, man.
I have 2 questions.
Yeah.
Is the blood coming from heaven, or is the blood coming from people being injured on the earth?
And that's a very good question. And I don't know that we can answer that from what we're given, do you? So.
No, it's just a thought that came up into my head.
Yeah.
The other is it only being 1/3 of the trees? Is this God's way of still giving people an opportunity to be saved? That he's starting slowly.
Yeah. And I like the way you point that out, because as we get down to later down here, we're going to find out that God's given all these chances. And we don't see it so much right here, but we saw it back in the 6th seal. That's where mankind knew that God was doing something, and they went and tried to hide from him. And then we'll see later down here in this chapter where people still know. It doesn't say they know, but we'll find other places. The people know God is doing something. They know it's God, but they still refuse to bow their knee. But he's given them a chance. This doesn't mean that no one is bowing their knee, but if the majority of mankind will not bow their knee, even though all these things are happening. And like you say, George, I like the way you pointed out there that there's still opportunity here for repentance. And we see that way back all through the Old Testament, where God would deal and people would repent. because they realized God was dealing with them and they would repent, realizing they deserved what they were getting. So, and I think we all, sometimes people say, well, how you doing? And we say, better than we deserve. There's a lot of truth to that, right? Because Christ took our wrath. But that is an interesting question, Joe. And there's nothing wrong with us going, okay, where'd the blood come from? Those are good questions to ask, because who knows, at some point we might actually see an answer to some of the questions we have up here. Yeah, is it blood coming down with the hail and the fire? Or is it because when this all hits, humans are getting injured or destroyed and their blood is there? So I don't know.
I see this is Jack, in case you can't tell, because
your screen lights up when
a,
you speak. So go ahead.
Yeah. Oh, okay, that's good. I've tried to turn on my video, but I can still just see. I can see the person who's talking, so that's better than I started out.
All right.
Anyway, I see a little parallel here with the hail, and it's kind of ties in with back with the plagues that were imposed on Pharaoh, but that was just a very limited plague to Egypt, and this is over the world, and plus it's got the fire and the blood and all that mixed in. But it's almost like, gee, back in the day of the Pharaoh, they thought it was the end of the world, where this is a lot closer to the end of the world and a whole lot worse.
Yeah, I think that's good. And I think we'll see here when we get about the sea becoming blood. There's another similarity.
Exactly.
That God's already done some of these plagues in a similar sense, in a smaller scale than what he's doing here. So
I was in Sisters, Oregon over the weekend, and driving from Sisters west to I-5. It was easily a third of the trees were burned up from all the fires over the years. And yeah. So you could see how that could happen.
Yeah, absolutely. And the interesting thing is that pointed out, these aren't necessarily just going to be they could look like natural phenomena, and God can choose to do these things any way he wants. But we see in several places in Revelation that people know God is dealing with the earth and don't repent. Right now, we kind of wonder is, how much is God behind all of this with our Northwest fires or the East Coast fires, those kind of things. I think they're preludes. What was the Bible say? These are the beginning of the birth pains. This is very possible, the types of things we're seeing now. They're getting ready, leading up. And I think people even now could use them as opportunities to repent and turn to God, don't you?
Yeah. Well, even the fires in Europe. I mean, it's worldwide. It's not just here.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and rivers are dried up. Yeah, you're right. People might want to call things global warming or climate change, but I tell you what, when you start reading this stuff, we'll find out who the biggest actor on the environmental devastation is.
Yeah.
Who the boss is.
It's God himself. So the things we count on. So these could be preludes to all of that. Yeah. For sure. Hey, Pixel 8. Read verse 8 and 9.
So Ray, what you're saying is a carbon tax isn't going to stop this.
Yeah. I told him when you first came up with Google Pixel 8, I said, that's probably Jack's. I got a Pixel 7, and I'm sure he's one step ahead of me.
Okay, 9.
8 and 9.
Then the second angel sounded, and something like a great mountain burning with fire was thrown into the sea, and a third of the sea became blood, and a third of the living creatures in the sea died, and a third of the ships were destroyed. So that as we just mentioned, the Nile turned to blood. Now we've got a third of the sea is turned to blood. And when I read this, something like a great mountain burning with fire was thrown into the sea, it almost seems like a volcano came up out of the sea and spewed fire and then maybe sunk back down into the sea. Sure, I saw that.
Yeah.
And the sea turned to blood, and a third of the living creatures in the sea died, and a third of the ships were destroyed. So it's destroying nature, and the third of the ships would be.
Did you go away?
Oh, no. I think he's gone.
Come back.
Hey,
John.
could that
I
be a
hope I'm back.
meteor?
He's back.
Yeah, good.
Hey.
You're back.
Oh, there he is.
Okay.
Could that be a meteor? Because it's being thrown.
Absolutely, because it says it's
Yeah.
thrown into the sea. And what Jack said, it could be either one. Because in some of my study and stuff, I've seen where some think it could be like the Jack was talking about. Think about Krakatoa. You guys
Yeah,
remember
right.
that story? I didn't see it, but when that island erupted, it was like extremely devastating. Had tidal waves 200 feet high, killed tens of thousands of people. But it says it was thrown into the sea. So, and if a large meteor comes in through our atmosphere, it will be on fire.
Mm-hmm.
So it could be a meteor.
But I thought the meteor it was more related to the third trumpet, but that was just the way I.
It could be. It could be.
Yeah.
It could be both, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, very possible. We notice something. I like this too. It's something. It says like something is added. Okay, because it's italicized. And like a great mountain. Okay, so the word like, and it is there in the Greek. I looked up the Greek thing. Not that I can read Greek, but I could see what the word was and know that it was like is in the Greek. So it's not a great mountain, but it's like a great mountain. So this is what John is seeing. It looks like to him, it looks like a big mountain on fire going into the sea. And it's very possible when he talks about the sea, it's talking about the Mediterranean at this point. In John's day, there was very little knowledge of any kind of oceans and stuff outside of the Mediterranean, and where the Mediterranean went into possibly into the Atlantic. But even that would have been very limited. They would have been hugging the coastline. People weren't making, as far as we know, it wasn't typical to be making crossing the ocean in those days till Columbus came along. But
That's when the old. Is that when it was flat?
no, they didn't. I know this: the Jews never believed the Earth was flat.
You know,
We
you
got
said
a lot of
something.
we got a lot of modern
Europeans.
knuckleheads that do, but Columbus never believed the Earth was flat. So, but
You know,
anyway,
you said something kind of important there. You were saying how that, this is in John's eyes, right?
well, it's actually what God is showing him. So, I'm glad you said that way, because as we read sometimes, and commentators and stuff, they say, well, John is trying to describe something he saw and he doesn't have the words for it. So
Right.
when he talks about a man on a horse or this locust that looked like this, he's probably talking about tanks with guns on the front and the back. And he can't describe a tank with the guns on the back. John is showing what the Lord showed him. I think we need to keep that in mind. If there's a symbol in here, it's what God showed him. So God would have shown John things he could understand.
Yep. That's a good
Okay.
point.
It could be that when it actually appears, it's not going to be 200 million, as we get to that, 200 million soldiers on horses, but that's something John could relate to. So when John says that, he's not trying to describe by using the word horses for something that's not horses. He's describing what God is showing him. I think that's important to remember that.
Yep.
So John sees God is showing him something that looks like a great mountain on fire going into the sea, very possibly talking about the Mediterranean Sea, because so much of the Old Testament and the early New Testament is talking about the Mediterranean as the sea. And even when we get the beast coming up out of the sea, it's probably coming up out of the Mediterranean. They're in the Middle East, which should make sense. And I think later we find out that it gets beyond this. As some of these things unveiled, they become more and more pronounced.
You know, I think as you look at 9, you're losing a significant food source. The living creatures in the sea are dying, and not only that, but you're losing the ships that are used to collect those fish for people to eat.
Yeah. Plus the ships out there for commerce.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's a lot of stuff being impacted here. We got to see the environment of the earth, or this, whatever you call it, the vegetation of the earth. Here we see commerce being affected. You know, trees are burned up, grass is burned up. And now we're seeing, like you say, food sources, life in the sea. And when these ships get destroyed, there's going to be people on those ships, I bet you. Yeah. Michael, you want to do 10 and 11, the waters?
Then the third angel sounded, and a great star fell from heaven, burning like a torch, and it fell on the third of the rivers and on the springs of water. The name of the star is Wormwood. A third of the waters became wormwood, and many men died from the water because it was made bitter. I think it sounds pretty self-explanatory here. Great star, I mean, they're talking about like a meteor then, burning like a torch. That sounds like a meteor. It fell on the third of the rivers and on the springs of the water. I'm not exactly sure what a wormwood is.
Wormwood was actually a type of plant that was very bitter. Typically, it was not poisonous, but I guess if you got water that's not drinkable, people would die from that. They die from the water. So probably in the quantities that wormwood was in the water. But you notice they capitalized, they gave it a name.
Yeah.
And it's interesting. You think about, I'm just interrupt myself here. There's places as we go through where star appears to be a star or meteors or something, you know, some heavenly body. Okay. And there's also places in here where star is actually an angel. So, and we'll see that in another place here where it's going to say star, then it's going to say he, and let you know that the star is talking about an angel. Here it says it, which may mean that it is actually a star. But before up here where it looks like this great mountain, something like a great mountain, fell into the sea. And here this looks similar, as Jack pointed out earlier there, that this one's burning like a torch. How can one star fall into a third of the rivers and on the springs of the water unless this is also a large meteor that is breaking up into pieces as it comes to the earth and falls in? This is my thinking. The word doesn't say that, but I'm trying to figure out how can one star hit a third of all the waters in the rivers?
Yeah, miss the land.
Yeah, if it breaks up into pieces, which is what happens to a lot of them coming into the atmosphere, then it could have the burning pieces falling into these various places and doing that. That's looking at it from the human eyes from a semi-scientific viewpoint. I do believe.
Yeah, to me, it's interesting that it's like a targeted drone strike. That I mean, it's clear. It clearly had to be from God because, like you say, I mean, one star or one meteor. I mean, it can't just hit the rivers and miss the land. I mean, it's just like it's clearly a God thing that happened.
Yeah.
Can I mention something,
Yeah.
if I may? In Joshua, and they were fighting in Beth Horn or whatever. I'm probably pronouncing it wrong. Where the stars fell from heaven, but the accuracy just killed all the enemies of Israel. and that was fire from heaven, in hell.
Yeah.
Battle of Bitch Horn or something like that. I'm totally saying it wrong, but the accuracy of God with his rocks, it's pretty astounding.
Yeah.
It fell on the enemies of Israel, not Israel itself, the troops of Israel.
Very good, Richard.
That's a good point.
So what we see here is that God can make it do anything he wants it to do, right?
Yeah,
And we
he's
see
a good
that.
shot.
This is definitely a miraculous thing, right? That Jack was pointing out. It doesn't say it hit the land, it hit the waters. So pretty good shots. Yeah, who knows what it'd look like? If it'd be visible from people seeing it coming when it all happens or not, we don't know. But we do know that that the reality of it is there. That something's going to happen to a third of the rivers and the springs of water. It's going to be very bitter. People are going to die from it. I truly believe that something like it's going to fall into the sea. And I think since it's the sea, it's probably the Mediterranean. It's going to be very devastating for that area. Imagine the tidal waves and things that be hitting the shores and stuff. How many of you been to that crater in Arizona? You know, that shows you what a meteor impact can do to the land when it hits it. So I could definitely see it doing that to the sea. Okay. Michael, is it your turn?
I think I just read.
Okay. Who is it? Who didn't read? Come on. Richard? No, you don't read. Okay. That's all right.
Yeah, I don't do too good.
That's okay. Jack, you want to do 12 again?
Sure. Just 12, or you want me to go all the way through that section?
Oh, go ahead and go all the way through. Yeah.
Okay. Then the fourth angel sounded, and a third of the sun was struck, a third of the moon, a third of the stars, so that a third of them were darkened. A third of the day did not shine, likewise the night. And I looked, and I heard an angel flying through the midst of heaven, saying with a loud voice, "Woe, woe, woe to the inhabitants of the earth, because of the remaining blasts of the trumpet of the three angels who are about to sound." So it's, yeah, this is more of a I mean, your third of the sun was struck, so I guess that I don't know that it was destroyed, but it was at least blotted out. And a third of the moon was blotted out, a third of the stars, so the third of them were darkened. They're all darkened.
Yeah.
And on top of that, a third of the day did not shine. So I don't know if that meant if they were having like 12 hours of sunlight, the went down to 8 hours of sunlight, or I don't know what that means, but it would be really scary to see the universe being affected in such a drastic manner. And an angel was flying through the midst of heaven saying, "Woe, woe, woe to the inhabitants of the earth." That's okay. So all the remaining inhabitants hear this, and because of the remaining blasts of the trumpet, the three angels who are about to sound. So with everything that's hit them so far, this angel is making it sound like you ain't seen nothing yet.
Very good. Yeah.
Oh.
This third of the day did not shine, had no light. So you guys remember this is another one of those things similar to the Egyptian plague.
Yep.
Yeah.
Remember when it was so dark?
In Exodus.
The Egyptian plague was, to me, just one of the most fascinating things. There was no light.
Yes. None.
None.
But on the Israel side, there was, right?
Israel side was fine. Yeah, but the Egyptian side,
yeah,
that doesn't necessarily mean the sun wasn't shining, because obviously the sun was shining. The moon was shining at night, but not for the Egyptians. Said it was dark, so dark they laid in their beds. And I think we talked about it before, but remember they had lamps and candles in those days, but they had no light. The candles and the lamps would not produce light. That's a scary darkness.
Well, I
Yeah.
guess.
They said there's a darkness that can be felt.
Yeah,
I
the
don't know.
darkness can be felt. So this looks something like similar, except now here it's a third of the day of the 24 hours. It looks like that there's no light.
That's like
It doesn't
going
say
down
that
the
candle.
AP.
It doesn't say candles won't work, or it doesn't say that that electricity won't work if there's still any left after the other stuff. But as far as the sun and the moon, it looks like for at least a third of that time period that we have the sun and the moon, there's going to be no light. That's a phenomenon in itself, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely.
Man,
Like going down the ape caves.
yeah. I tell you what, the aliens and the UFOs are really going to be raising havoc.
Yeah.
This is interesting. This C here. Some translations translated eagle. I don't know why. I guess there's a similarity between the word for eagle and angel, but anyway, I like the angel myself, flying through the midst of the heavens, saying with a loud voice. So we've had the angels doing the talking so far. Woe, woe to the inhabitants of the earth. Then I like Jack said, you ain't seen nothing yet.
Hey, they put 9 in the wrong place.
Oh, chapter 9?
Yeah.
Oh no, it's going to continue with the woes because you're going to see the first woe
Yeah.
coming up pretty quick. And you notice
Are we
this?
going to keep going?
You notice this says woe, woe, woe. Okay.
Whoa.
So each of the three angels left has a woe. They're going to blow a trumpet, but theirs are going to be considered woes. These other things aren't considered woe. Oh my goodness. Before we go there, I want to share something I put together. Where is it? Share. Okay.
Whoa. Look at those people.
Where are we? Yeah, look at all them people.
Hey, I see Ray in there.
Here's a little slideshow I put together. Come on, click. Okay. All right. You see something on a white horse?
Yep.
There's the red horse. These are, see this little emblem down here? These were all, I had AI create these. I put in what I wanted and this is what came out. So I thought it's pretty neat. This is a pretty good description of the one on the white horse with the bow and the crown coming out to conquer. So this was back in Revelation 6. As you can see, this is Revelation 6, the second horse, the red fiery horse. He was able to take peace from the earth and men killing each other. If you remember that. The third seal, the famine. So you can see there are people dying from starvation. Some of these are pretty ghastly pictures, but I think it's going to be a ghastly time. Maybe it won't look quite that ghastly. That's pretty ghastly. And then the fourth seal, remember death riding on a horse, the pale horse, and I had, if you notice behind it, it's got death and Hades, so you can see the bodies following behind it there. It's and then this one, the four horsemen, it talks about them in chapter 6 killing a fourth of the earth's population. And the beast, see you got some beasts down here. The fifth seal, this was under the souls under the altar. And there's the golden altar it talks about. And the sixth seal, the sky was rolled up like a scroll and the mountains and the islands were knocked out of their place. And then it talks about at the end of chapter. Oh my goodness.
Hiding under the rocks.
I can't even answer it. I'm at Bible study. I'll call you back. Okay. Okay. Goodness gracious. Trying to ring through my computer there. So this is the mankind hiding in the caves. It's got people of all things, warriors, kings, and stuff.
Hezbollah.
What's interesting is when I put this in, I actually have an option now when I go to my home page to create a an image, and it's probably, I don't know, 3 to 5 seconds it makes a picture, so it's almost scary. And back in chapter 7, which was the last time we got together, it was about the 4 angels at the corner of the earth holding back the winds until the 144,000 could be sealed. So this is the sealing of the 144,000. And then that was followed by the great multitude before the throne with the palm branches and praising God. And then we get into what we read today. There's the 7 angels with the trumpets, and there's the one with the censer throwing it down to the earth. The first trumpet, the vegetation being struck by the fire and the hail and the blood hitting the trees and the grass. There's a thing like a mountain hitting the sea, the ships burning up.
Wow.
And the dead things floating in the ocean. Here's the star, looks like a star, wormwood hitting the waters and people dying. And let's see, that's the 3rd trumpet. And the 4th trumpet, this is the heavens being affected. I guess that's pretty good. I don't know. Then we're going to get in. I'll go ahead and show these. We're going to get into the locusts coming from the bottomless pit, coming up in chapter 9. Pretty good depictions of the locusts as they're described in Revelation. There's the angel with the key. And then later we're going to have this that tells who rules over them. Abaddon is their king. And then the 6th trumpet, when we get there, talk about the angels that are chained at the river Euphrates to let this horde of army, probably a demonic army, come out to kill people on the earth. So I thought that was really interesting thing to put together. So
Oh, yeah.
where are we? Okay.
I can see why people would be afraid of AI.
But yeah, well, you can, yeah. Okay. So we finished that, and you see chapter 9 coming up.
Yep.
Okay, I got some kind of thing there. Go away. Okay. This is a long section here about the locusts. George, how about reading the first 6 verses here, if you won't mind? So.
Sure. Then the 5th angel sounded. I saw a star fallen from heaven to the earth. To him was given the key to the bottomless pit. And he opened the bottomless pit, and smoke arose out of the pit like the smoke of a great furnace. So the sun and the air were darkened because of the smoke of the pit. Then out of the smoke locusts came upon the earth, and to them was given power, as the scorpions of the earth have power. They were commanded not to harm the grass of the earth, or any green thing, or any tree, but only those men who do not have the seal of God on their foreheads. They were not given authority to kill them, but to torment them for 5 months. Their torment was like the torment of a scorpion when it strikes a man. In those days, men will seek death and will not find it. They will desire to die, and death will flee from them.
Mm.
Well, that does not sound pleasant.
No.
So the 5th angel sounded, and he saw the star fall from heaven to the earth. And the angel was given the key to the bottomless pit, which he proceeded to open, with the smoke coming out like out of a furnace. So the sun and the air were darkened because of the smoke of the pit. Now, I would assume this is just adding to the darkness that's already been created with some of the previous trumpet blasts. So then out of the smoke locusts came upon the earth. which is reflects in the Old Testament the number of times that locusts came upon the crops and came and covered the earth. So it is, referring to the past as well as to the present at the time this is happening. But these locusts are a bit different than the previous ones, and they were given the power of scorpions, and that they had their orders that they couldn't harm the grass of the earth or any of the vegetation, but could only basically attack men who did not have the seal of protection from God. And that they did not have the authority to kill anybody, but to just torment them for 5 months. So I imagine they just kept stinging them, but didn't have enough in their stings to kill anybody. And people were so tormented by the pain of the scorpions that they wanted to die, but they could not. And even though they desired it, death did not come upon them.
Before we, before we discuss any more about that, Michael, how about reading 7 through 11 there? Or 7
The
through
shape
12.
of the locusts was like horses prepared for battle. On their heads were crowns of something like gold, and their faces were like the faces of men. They had hair like women's hair, and their teeth were like lions' teeth. And they had breastplates like breastplates of iron, and the sound of their wings was like the horn of chariots, with many horses running into battle. They had tails like scorpions, and there were stings in their tails. Their power was to hurt men 5 months. They had they had as king over them the angel of the bottomless pit, whose name in Hebrew was Abaddon, but in Greek he has a name of Apollyon. One woe is past. Behold, still more woes are coming after these things. I find it in just reading that is so very impactful. I mean, just the fact of each one of these things is, I mean, the shape of locusts like horses prepared in battle. I can only imagine and picture this, and especially with that AI pictures that you had. We just have to all pray that we're not here to have to experience this.
Amen.
I mean, your pictures that you had pretty much describes everything that we just was reading. And I was
Yeah.
thinking about those pictures as I was reading this. So,
Yeah, I think that was a good picture AI produced there. I was like, oh
boy,
my word.
I think,
yeah,
though, the good news is it only happens to people that don't have the seal of God.
right,
Yes. So
absolutely.
that's very good news for a
Yeah.
lot of people, I hope. For a lot of people, I hope.
And
Yeah,
you can envision, I mean, it's not just one. I mean, you could have multiple ones all over your body.
Yeah. Now, I've
you
never been
know,
stung by scorpions. Anybody?
My
no,
dad was when he was a kid back in Mexico,
Uh-huh.
and he said that he went to the water fountain to get a drink, and a scorpion stung him on his tongue.
Oh,
Ow.
And
Jeez.
so he left school and went home, but he said it was very painful.
I can imagine, especially on the tongue. It's lucky you didn't die for the
Yeah.
tongue to swell up and cut off your ear.
just reading this portion itself, you would think would take a non-believer and turn him into a believer instantly, that he would not want to be part of that.
Well, the key is that non-believers don't believe any of this. They think it's nonsense. So
Yeah.
woe to them. Woe to them.
Oh, yeah.
Well, just at the possibility that it could be right seems like, maybe I'm gonna rethink this.
Yeah. Now look what the aliens have done. They finally landed.
Yeah, and
You
we're in
notice,
trouble.
here's one of the examples. I got star highlighted in him. So this time, this is the fifth angel sounding. The star is not the fifth angel. Okay. Whoa, go back. Man, what was going on? I got to be careful where I click. Okay. So a star fallen from heaven. Notice that?
Mm-hmm.
So this is a star, a being that has fallen from heaven. Is this a good angel or a bad angel?
Probably a fallen angel.
And I like what David
Bad
Luke, it
angel.
depends on his relation to that king that's mentioned at the bottom. You know, I don't know. But anyway, he's given the key to the bottomless pit. So this fallen angel does not have the key until it's given to him. So even if it's a evil angel, looks like a fallen angel, I would assume those are not good guys. He's being used by God because as we saw, this is the revelation of Jesus Christ and the end times for human history. So he's not can't just get the key to the bottomless pit to let them out, but he has given that key to let them out. This could be, some people think, well, it could be Satan himself that's opening this up. If not, it's probably some high-ranking
Angel
angel that
serving
fell,
God.
especially down here where talked about their king, their power. They had as a king over them the angel of the bottomless pit. So I don't know if this means that there's an angel that was in the bottomless pit who was the king, or if this is the angel that let them out. I don't know. Anybody got? I didn't speculate too much on it because my little brain wouldn't help me.
Well, does say here in a note, the bottomless pit is an interim jail for some demons.
Yeah, I
Also a
didn't.
place the origins of the beast.
Yeah.
Furthermore, it will be the place where Satan will be imprisoned during the Christ's reign.
Yes. And I didn't bring up the references. I wasn't sure we'd get this far today, so I didn't mark them. But it talks about in Peter and Jude about how the angels who didn't keep their place, that God bound them up in the abyss, basically till the right time. So this would include those who left their habitation and they've been locked up. Does it say how many locusts there are? So it was darkened because of the smoke. It said it came out locusts. Now, typically we think of locusts, we think of swarms. So how many of these creatures are coming out of there, we don't really know. But they're definitely demonic in nature. And I think it was George pointed out that these, that God would have shown to John these to be call them locusts because of the past plagues and stuff in the Old Testament, when God used locusts as judgments.
Right.
And that here, instead of locusts eating the green stuff, they're tormenting men. So, but can you imagine being in such pain and suffering that you want to die and you can't even do it? Said they will seek death. I wonder if that even means they not just crying out, I want to die, but they're actually trying to kill themselves and they still can't do it.
And it sounds like it.
Yeah. And they get to do this for 5 months. I bet that 5 months seems like a long time.
You know, I think verse 6, the end of it says that they can't kill themselves
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
because death will flee from them.
Yeah. What an amazing thing.
I mean,
Once
5
again, that
hours.
shows you. Once again, that shows you that God has power over death.
God has power over all.
There you go. Man. So probably as far as the reading goes today, we'll probably stop there and we'll start with the sixth trumpet next week. Any more thing out of these first 5 trumpets anybody wants to talk about?
Pretty
Other
scary.
than it'll be a very frightening time.
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh man. Try not to be here. Yeah, it's hard to tell. I've been doing some reading and stuff. Oh, I was going to one more scripture I wanted to show, I think. Yeah, let's see. Where am I? It's in Matthew. Jesus is talking, this Matthew 24. And we haven't got to this. It says, therefore, when you see the abomination of desolation spoken of by Daniel the prophet, standing in the holy place, whoever reads, let him understand. Then he goes to some more description there. And he says, for then there will be great tribulation, such as has not been seen since the beginning of the world until this time, no ever shall be. So it looks like, in the way at least Jesus put it there, as far as timeline goes, that what we consider the great tribulation may be starting after the Antichrist sets himself up in the temple. And so, in other words, and I've read this from other places, that there's tribulation, and then some people consider the great tribulation to be the last 3.5 years. And this is, to me, was interesting. Immediately after the tribulation of those days, the sun will be darkened and the moon will not give its lights. The stars will fall from heaven and the powers of the heavens will be shaken. I thought it was interesting that after the tribulation of those days, the sun's going to be dark and the moon not give light. So it's something to scratch our pretty little heads about.
Well, I guess.
Yeah. So
I need to go. I've got someone coming to the door.
Okay, so we
Bye,
will
George.
catch you guys
George.
next week. I
We'll
hope.
see you next week.
Hi,
Everybody have
George.
a blessed
Thank
week.
you.
All right.
Bye, everybody. Bye, Ray.
Bye-bye. Looks like Jack
Bye,
disappeared
guys.
already too. So.
Yep.
Yeah.